Organizing boxes in my room due to a sudden moving notice, I found a model that I had abandoned. It was a VF25S from the Macros Frontier series, and I thought it was a good time to give it a little love, so I'm going to paint and apply the decals while doing something I've been putting off for a long time, which is a personal ranking of the best Macross series I've seen, which is all of them, because there ain't that many. After all, this shit ain't Gundam. For this ranking, I will only take into account the series, both television and OVA, because if I include the movies and the mangas, which I haven't read all of, it gets very confusing and extends too much, so with that in mind, let's get to it. Before we start, a couple of clarifications. First, this ranking is personal. If you disagree with me, okay, and if you agree, okay too. It's great that we find common ground. Second, Macross as a franchise has four elements that are like a class brand, so to speak, which are the love triangle, aliens, music, and how music affects these aliens. The balance between these four elements made the series a success in Japan at first, and after it was adapted as Robotech here in the West, it was another hit and marked generations and so on. However, I believe Robotech should be discussed in another video, and I don't know if that will happen soon. I don't wanna promise anything I can't fulfill, so for now, we're only going to talk about Macross. With this in mind and present, let's go with the ranking. In position number 7 is Macross 7, which in my opinion, and I'm going to be very insistent on this again, it's my opinion, it is the most ridiculous and weakest of all the Macross series. I think it's quite ridiculous that the main characters fly their Valkyries by playing their instruments. I think it is too 90s in a bad way. Everything is too colorful and overacted. Even though I've given it several chances and it still doesn't click for me. I'm going to go through this series quickly because I really have nothing good to say about it. The whole series feels like a bad episode of the Power Rangers but stretched over 26 episodes. At number 6 we have Macross 2, Lovers Again, which brings us a story that is almost identical as the original Macross. There is nothing new. The only twist is that the enemy alien race, the Marduk, also have musical attacks, so to speak, and they carry them out through singers who are called emulators. Beyond that, the story is very similar to the original Macross and takes place in an alternate reality, meaning it is not within the canon, and that kinda bums me up. What is certain is that this series gave us one of the sexiest Valkyries that have come out in recent years, which is the VF25S, which is gorgeous. In position number 5 is Macross Delta. Although it is the most current of the series and its second movie promised a lot because it brings back characters we thought were gone, I feel like for the series to get good in its second movie says a lot about the quality of it. Although it has very good elements in its favors, such as referencing the other Macross series and not being lost in the canon, being directly linked to Macross Zero through the whole protoculture issue, it still doesn't feel right that the plot serves the music. I think that there is too much emphasis on making this series a commercial success, and too much attention is given to the music rather than the actual plot or truly developing the characters. While there is some of that, it is not what predominates, and it does not fulfill the balance of the four elements for the series to be completely good and appreciated. I think it's quite average. It fulfills its purpose, but nothing more. Neither outstanding nor awful. I gave the 4th place to Macross Frontier. Macross Frontier was released for the 25th anniversary of Macross. It's a very correct series, it balances its elements very well so that something good comes out of it. It references the other shows, so it's not so out of place in the canon. The love triangle formula is respected. This time it is a pilot and two singers, which is an entertaining twist because the singers are Cheryl Nome, a direct descendant of Sarah and Mao Nome from Macross Zero, and Ranka Lee, who is like the young rising star, while Cheryl is already the established one, the diva of the galaxy. Very good animation, good story, good character development, although the protagonist, Alto Saotome, is like that typical character you can encounter in a role-playing company. Like the guy who is cool and the girls want him, and he doesn't connect with anyone because he just wants to be left alone. That shit really pisses me off. It's a very lazy and boring type of character, and it's like the opposite extreme of the power players in role-playing games. It is like the guy who doesn't want to create bonds, doesn't want to do anything, and I find that such a protagonist has nothing to do in a Macross. But anyway, let's get to the third place, which is Macross Zero. Macross Zero is a prequel to Super Dimensional Fortress Macross. It was produced to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Macross, and its story takes place on a Pacific island where there are some ruins that belong to the protoculture, this ancient extraterrestrial culture that at some point visited the Earth and is also closely linked to music and were the ones who created the Centrati. It is a nice show. I think it has an ideal duration for what it wants to convey, which is 5 OVAs. The stage is the war against the United Nations government when Roy Fokker tells in Macross that he fought in the war. This is the war he talks about, the war of some countries opposing the global government of the United Nations. In this series, the music serves the plot, and not the other way around, making this a very balanced and very well accomplished story. And yes, it seems like I have an issue with the music. I might appear bitter in the eyes of others, and honestly, I wear it like a badge of honor. I hate it when they add music or do musical numbers for no reason. In fact, my favorite Disney movie is Atlantis because it doesn't have any music at numbers at all, and that makes it perfect. After this brief disclaimer, we continue. Number 2 is for the OG TV show Super Dimensional Fortress Macross. What can I say? It's a bombshell. It is the one that set the precedent for everything that would come after. The designs by Shoji Kawamori and character designs by Haruhiko Mikimoto still look beautiful to this day. It has aged very well. The one area where I think it falls short is in the background music. This is if we compare it with a Robotech. For example, the Daedalus Attack episode, which is the first one in which this combat technique is used and would later become a class trademark of the other Macross fortresses, it is a much less exciting scene in the original series, whereas in Robotech it is epic, and it is all because of the music. I understand that the songs by Ling Min Mei had to be repeated all the time because, well, that was what the budget allowed at that time. However, I think that the background music sort of fell short, and I think Robotech in that aspect is far superior to the original Macross. However, from a storytelling perspective, it captured many details that are incredible, and well, looking at it from a distance, they make you laugh when you look at it closely. For example, when Hikaru hallucinates in the first episode because he was shot and sees Roy Fokker flying an airplane, the airplane has Kawamori written on it, as if it were the brand, and it is a direct reference to Shoji Kawamori, the mecha designer. There are details like the little ghost in the supermarket sign that freaks out when Hikaru crash lands in the city after flying a Valkyrie for the first time. There are things like Miria Farina Genius, the Meltron who falls in love with Max Genius and marries him. She had to be nerfed in several episodes because she was more beautiful than Misa Hayase and Lin Min Mei. And this results in some of the most horrible drawings of the show. I mean, look at that, it's terrible. Now, in the number one spot, the best of it all, the coolest, Macross Plus. Macross Plus is a story told in 4 40 minutes installments. It is an audiovisual feast. It has magnificent designs. In fact, Shoji Kawamori, who directed this movie and also did the character and mecha designs, lived on an airbase to see what test pilots' lives were like, in order to have a closer reference for writing the movie and the characters. This line of work is evident because the show is tremendously well balanced. It has all the elements that make a Macross good. The music serves the plot and not the other way around. In fact, the 3 musical moments in the series all serve the plot. Every chord, every note, every song has something to do with what is actually happening, and that makes its music much more memorable, at least for me. The songs of Sharon Apple and the incidental music by Yoko Kanno, who set the bar incredibly high, made the OST transcend the genre. It doesn't matter that it's animation, it is simply beautiful. After watching the series, one might think it couldn't get any better. Well, think again, because the movie edition made Macross Plus even more awesome. It doesn't matter if you like anime or not, as a movie, it is a gem. The story is so well told, so well done, so well thought out, that the movie time passes by so quickly, and in my experience that only happens with really awesome movies. After this almost endless ramble about Macross and why it is something that should be preserved to perpetuate humanity as a species, I will show you how the VF25S model kit turned out. I decided to leave the model in Batroid mode and pose it from there because I think transforming it will result in the decals coming off or the paint chipping a bit, and I put a lot of work on it, so I don't want it to end up like that. If you like the video, leave your like, leave your comment. Perhaps you can comment your own ranking of the Macross series and we'll geek out from there. Thank you very much for making it this far. Please subscribe if you haven't, and if you have, thank you from the bottom of my heart. It helps me a lot. Follow me on my social media, thanks to Witch Paintings who makes all of this possible, and see you next time. Craft Daddy out.